Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to say is not opinion, it is revelation. It is not theory, it is truth. And if you don't wake up to it now, you will bleed silently in the arms of someone who was never sent by God, someone sent to destroy you quietly from within. There are people in your life right now who wear the skin of friendship, but carry the spirit of destruction. They smile, but it's a mask. They support you, but it's a setup. They act like they care, but every step you take toward healing, purpose, and peace irritates the demon inside of them. You think you're being attacked by life, but you're being attacked through people. Spiritual warfare doesn't always come with thunder and lightning. It comes through whispers, fake hugs, and strategic delays. These are not just toxic people. These are assigned spirits hiding in human form, moving in silence, feeding off your weakness, and poisoning your journey with every encounter. So I need you to listen to every word I say today, not casually, but urgently. Because the signs I'm about to give you could be the difference between freedom and bondage, clarity and confusion, purpose and destruction. If you've been asking God why you feel stuck, why your peace keeps dying, or why your progress keeps getting interrupted, this message is your answer. It's your answer. This is not just motivation. This is spiritual exposure. And by the end of this speech, the veil will be lifted. You will see them clearly. And once you see them, you won't unsee it again. So don't scroll. Don't skip. Don't get distracted. Because your discernment is being sharpened right now. And it may just save your destiny. You ever notice how certain people don't just wear you out? They leave you feeling spiritually hollow? Like after being around them, it's not just your body that's tired. It's your soul that's gasping for air. That's not normal. That's not just personality clash. That's not just bad chemistry. That is spiritual interference. You're not just dealing with a difficult person. You're dealing with a force that's draining your life from the inside out. And you keep explaining it away like it's just stress, just fatigue, just life. But deep down, you know something is off. These people don't show up to support you. They show up to siphon you. They don't take your time. They steal your strength. Every conversation feels heavier than it should. Every moment shared feels like you're giving something away and getting nothing back. You're always the one pouring, always the one fixing, always the one uplifting. And yet the more you give, the more broken you feel. That's not love. That's not connection. That's a demonic assignment wearing human skin. Some of them come into your life acting like helpers. They listen. They comfort. They seem harmless at first. But their true power isn't in what they say. It's in what they cost you. They cost you your clarity. They cost you your motivation. They cost you your focus. And by the time you start realizing it, your passion is gone, your vision is blurry, and you don't even recognize yourself in the mirror. And still, they want more, because that's what they feed on. They feed on your potential. They feed on your doubt. They feed on your inner war. They're not just draining your energy. They're draining your essence. Some of you are fighting battles in your mind that didn't start until you met them. You weren't always this confused. You weren't always this anxious. You weren't always this anxious. You weren't always this weak. But since they entered your space, it's like your inner compass went silent. That's not by accident. That's the fruit of proximity to darkness. Demonic presence doesn't always shout. It whispers. It whispers doubt into your confidence. It whispers guilt into your healing. It whispers fear into your faith. And it does it slowly, subtly, until you mistake spiritual fatigue for personal failure. They love to show up when you're trying to get right. When you're finally setting boundaries. When you're finally rebuilding your life. That's when they become extra supportive. That's when they suddenly check in. That's when they tell you they miss you. Because they sense you're regaining your power, and demons can't stand when a soul starts remembering who it is. So they fake connection to keep you close. But what they're really doing is positioning themselves close enough to extinguish your fire before it gets too bright. You've got to learn to pay attention to patterns, not just moments, because demonic spirits don't operate through chaos all the time. Sometimes they operate through cycles. The same confusion, the same distraction, the same arguments, the same delays. Every time you try to rise, something pulls you back down. And it's always connected to them. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. And some of you are so used to it, you've normalized it. You've convinced yourself that this is just what relationships are supposed to feel like. That maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're just hard to please, but I came to tell you, no, You're not hard to please. You're not expecting too much. You're just in a battle you never identified. You're dealing with spirits that were never meant to stay this long. And every second you keep them around, you pay with your peace. And don't be fooled. They don't always look dangerous. They don't always act hostile. Some of them play the victim so well, you'll feel bad for even thinking of walking away. That's part of the trap. Because if they can keep you feeling guilty, they can keep you available. And if they can keep you available, they can keep draining you until there's nothing left. That's why discernment matters more than loyalty. You can't be loyal to demons just because they came in the form of a friend. You can't stay bound just because you've known them for years. Longevity doesn't equal divine purpose. Some people were only meant to teach you the difference between connection and assignment. And once the lesson is clear, the season must end. You don't need to explain your decision to protect your peace. You don't owe anyone a seat at your table just because they watched you build it. Some were never there to build with you. They were there to weaken your foundation. And if you're not careful, they'll collapse everything you prayed for, just by being close. So hear me, if someone in your life leaves you more empty than full, more confused than clear, more anxious than anchored, that's not love. That's not God. That's not purpose. That's spiritual warfare. And the longer you entertain it, the deeper it roots itself in your destiny. And if you don't cast it out, it will consume you. Choose your peace. Choose your fire. Choose your freedom before they burn it all to the ground. One of the most dangerous signs someone in your life is not just broken. Demonic. It's how they handle the truth. Because when truth enters a room, demons tremble, but they won't admit it. They won't run. They twist it. They bend it just enough to sound close to right, but far enough from it to keep you trapped in confusion. They turn your clarity into chaos. They weaponize your vulnerability. They don't attack you with fists. They attack you with lies. They don't say you're wrong. They say you're too sensitive. They don't say you're growing. They say you're changing. They don't say you're healing. They say you're distant. And slowly, you begin to question your own vision. You begin to doubt your own growth. You begin to wonder if you're the problem for finally choosing peace. That's the trick. That's how the enemy operates. Not by coming against the truth, but by making you afraid to stand in it. And the most terrifying part, these people will pretend to love you while celebrating your downfall in silence. They'll cry when you cry, but smile when you fall. They'll check on you when you're weak, but go silent when you rise. Because your pain made them feel important. Your wounds kept them relevant. And the moment you begin to walk in strength, the moment you start choosing healing over chaos, they begin to disappear, not because they're busy, but because they're exposed. See, they were never clapping for you. They were clapping for your pain. They were clapping for your need. They were clapping because as long as you were broken, you were easier to control. You were easier to guilt, easier to manipulate, easier to bend. But when you began to reclaim your voice, when you began to say no without explaining, when you began to shine without asking for permission, that's when the mask cracked. That's when the demon flinched. Because they're not afraid of your success. They're afraid of your awareness. They're afraid you'll see them for what they are. That's why they twist your truth into rebellion. That's why they twist your healing into ego. That's why they twist your growth into betrayal. They don't want you to think clearly. Because once you see them, you won't unsee them. And once you unmask a demon, it either flees or fights harder. And this is where many people get trapped. Because these individuals are not always loud. They don't always scream. They don't always argue. Some of them know how to play the victim better than anyone. They know how to flip the script, turn the tables, and make you question your own sanity. They'll start the fire, then cry about the smoke. And while you're busy trying to prove your innocence, they're busy planting more lies. This is spiritual warfare. This is not just about relationships. This is about territory. This is about identity. This is about your mind, your spirit, your voice. These spirits operate like parasites. They attach themselves to the parts of you that are still healing, and they make themselves look like medicine. But they're not here to cure you. They're here to keep you sick enough to need them, but never strong enough to leave them. You'll know them by their patterns. When you're suffering, they're present. When you're struggling, they have advice. But when you start to win, they suddenly go silent. When your name starts ringing with favor, they get quiet. When your vision starts moving, they distance themselves, not because they're busy, but because they were never with you to begin with. They were assigned to delay you, not to develop. And if you speak up, if you call it out, they'll say you're being dramatic. They'll say you're overreacting. That's the spirit of manipulation talking. That's how they stay close. That's how they keep you questioning your own instincts. Because as long as you second guess yourself, you won't walk away. And as long as you don't walk away, they still have access. They still have influence. They still have power. But listen to me, truth is not a luxury. It's your lifeline. It doesn't matter who they are. Family, friends, lovers. If they cannot handle your truth without twisting it. If they cannot celebrate your wins without comparing them. If they cannot honor your healing without resenting it. You are not safe there. And if you are not safe there, you cannot stay there. You cannot stay. You cannot keep lowering your light to make demons feel comfortable in your presence. This is the hour to stop explaining truth to those who were never built to receive it. You don't need to convince the darkness why your light exists. You just need to shine. And every demon that was hiding behind charm, pity, or flattery will expose itself. Not because you fought them, but because you stopped feeding them. And when that happens, don't apologize. Don't explain. Just walk. Walk in truth, because your future doesn't need their permission. It only needs your clarity. Some of the most dangerous people in your life aren't the ones who openly hate you. They're the ones who secretly delay you. They're not fighting you head on. They're distracting you sideways. And the reason you haven't stepped into the fullness of your purpose yet isn't always because you're lazy or afraid or unprepared. It's because someone close to you is carrying an assignment, not to destroy you outright, but to slow you down just enough to keep you from reaching it. These are the ones who show up every time you gain momentum. You start focusing, and here they come with a crisis. You begin healing, and here they are, needing comfort. You start moving forward, and suddenly they need just one more conversation. But what you don't see at first is that they don't come to elevate you, they come to occupy you. They don't attack your purpose directly. They interfere with your ability to move in it, because the enemy doesn't always need to stop you. Sometimes he just needs to slow you enough to miss your moment. They look like friends. They sound like lovers. They dress like supporters. But deep down, their presence brings confusion, delay, and disorder. Every time you say yes to their needs, you're saying no to your own destiny. Every time you stop to fix them, you're putting your breakthrough on pause. And after enough cycles of interruption, you start believing the lie that maybe your purpose isn't that urgent, that maybe you can get to it later, that maybe God will wait. But listen closely. Purpose does not wait forever. There are windows. There are moments. There are divine alignments that don't repeat. And if you're surrounded by people who keep pulling you out of position, you'll miss what was prepared for you. Some of you have been carrying gifts for years, and the only reason you haven't birthed them is because you keep getting distracted by the same faces. You keep entertaining the same apologies. You keep rescuing the same people. You keep answering calls that were never meant to be answered. And slowly, your fire begins to fade. Not because it's gone, but because you're too drained to feed it. That's what these spirits do. They don't kill the flame, they starve it. They keep you tired, unfocused, emotionally entangled. And before you know it, days turn to months, and months to years, and the purpose you once shouted about becomes a whisper in the background of a life spent carrying other people's weight. And let's be clear, not everyone who needs you is sent to you. Not everyone who cries for help is your assignment. Because some cries are not from pain, they're from possession. They're not hurting, they're hunting. Hunting for your time, your attention, your loyalty. Hunting for anything that keeps you from walking into your calling. And if you don't discern the difference, you'll waste your life watering a garden that was never yours to tend. These spirits are subtle. They don't come in shouting, they come in with need. They come in with compliments. They come in with timing so perfect it feels divine. But look at the fruit. Has your mind been clearer since they came? Has your peace increased? Has your focus sharpened? Or are you always recovering? Always regrouping? Always restarting from scratch because they've pulled you off the path again? Some of you are in this exact cycle. You make progress and they show up. You start to heal and they call. You find peace and they disturb it. And you call it love. You call it loyalty. But what you don't realize is that these moments are calculated. The enemy studies you. He knows what distracts you. He knows what gets your attention. And when he finds a weakness, he doesn't send storms. He sends people, people who look right but don't feel right. People who say the right things but pull you in the wrong direction. People who know how to blend in but carry energy that leaves your spirit anxious, heavy, and lost. And you're too kind to cut them off, too loyal to walk away, too hopeful that maybe this time will be different. But let me tell you the truth. It won't. Because you're not fighting a person. You're fighting a spirit working through a person. And unless you recognize the assignment and break the access, you will keep circling the same delay while watching your destiny drift further out of reach. There comes a moment when you have to choose. There comes a moment when you have to choose. Your calling or their chaos. Your vision or their confusion. Your future or their dysfunction. Because the truth is, you cannot have both. You cannot walk in full purpose while being entangled in demonic distractions. You were not created to carry everybody. You were created to move. And sometimes, in order to move, you have to let go of what's been holding you in place. So if you keep feeling stuck, if you keep starting and stopping, if every time you're about to rise something pulls you back, it's time to look around you. Because the delay isn't always from God. Sometimes it's from the company you keep. And when you realize that, you stop asking for confirmation. You start making separation. The most dangerous spirits in your life are not the loud, aggressive ones that curse you to your face. They're the quiet, charming ones that smile while studying how to undo you silently. They don't come with obvious hate. They come dressed in kindness. They flatter. They compliment. They call you special, chosen, different. And because your soul craves love and recognition, you start letting them closer. But what you think is admiration is actually manipulation. What feels like connection is camouflage. Because not all demons growl, some wear perfume. Some know how to touch your heart while targeting your purpose. They won't show you the fangs, not at first. They'll show you affection. They'll show you attention. They'll show you just enough consistency to keep your guard down. Just enough affection to confuse your spirit. But behind that sweetness is control. Behind that smile is jealousy. Behind those good intentions is a mission. To keep you small, doubting, unsure, dependent, and distracted. They want you to feel like you need them. Because as long as you believe you need them, you'll never rise above them. These kinds of people are professionals at pretending. They say all the right things, but you feel wrong in your spirit. They do just enough good to keep you confused about the bad. They serve you kindness in public, but control you in private. They apologize without change. They promise without action. And every time you're ready to walk away, they love bomb you back into silence. That's not care. That's tactical delay. That's darkness disguised as devotion. You'll notice them by what happens to your spirit when they leave the room. Pay attention. When they're not around, your mind clears, your heart lifts, you can breathe again. That's not coincidence. That's the absence of manipulation. That's your spirit exhaling. Because while they're close, your discernment is under attack. You feel foggy, unsure, guilty for having boundaries, hesitant to speak up. And every time you try to put your foot down, they twist it. They say, I was just trying to help. They act wounded, hurt, offended. And now, instead of protecting your peace, you're comforting them. That's how the spirit works. It flips the roles. You become the villain for defending your soul. And if you're not careful, you'll stay stuck in that cycle for years, convincing yourself that maybe you're too harsh. Maybe you're too closed off. Maybe you should give them one more chance. But deep down, you know. You've always known. Because even though they say all the right things, they carry the wrong spirit. And you can't fake alignment. You can't fake anointing. You can't fake peace. If your peace dies every time they show up, that's not love. That's a sign. People think demons come with horns and red eyes, but most of them come with a gentle touch and a beautiful face. They come with shared interests and perfect timing. They come when you're vulnerable, when you're questioning yourself, when your guard is low, and because they don't look dangerous, you invite them in. But their power is not in how they enter. It's in how they stay. They stay just long enough to reshape your identity. They get in your head. They isolate you from truth. And suddenly you're not just confused about them. You're confused about you. Now you don't trust your instincts. You second-guess your convictions. You don't move as boldly. You don't speak as clearly. That's not growth. That's spiritual dulling. That's your fire being muted by their influence. And you keep thinking they're trying to help. You keep telling yourself they mean well. But what you feel in your gut is louder than what they say with their lips. You can't ignore your discernment just because they're polite. The devil knows how to say God bless you too. The most terrifying part, they don't just pretend to love you, they believe they do. That's why it's confusing. Because they convince themselves they're helping. They convince themselves they're saving you. But deep down, they can't handle your growth. Because the moment you rise, they lose control. The moment you shine, their influence fades, and the spirit operating in them cannot stand to be irrelevant. So they'll wrap their control in concern. They'll say, I'm just looking out for you. But what they're really doing is trying to keep you beneath them. Emotionally, spiritually, even mentally. You've got to understand, not all who clap are with you. Some are clapping to keep you distracted. Some are clapping so you don't see the knife. Some are clapping because your light gives them just enough glow to hide their shadow. But if you pay attention, really pay attention, you'll see it. You'll see how they shift when you talk about purpose. How their energy dims when you speak with fire. How their support disappears when your name starts gaining weight. It's not random. It's revealing. So stop waiting for them to expose themselves with actions. Sometimes, the smile is the disguise. The praise is the poison. The hug is the trap. You don't need another incident. You need to trust what your spirit already knows. Because once you identify that spirit for what it is, it loses its grip. Once you see clearly, you can walk freely. And once you walk freely, you realize you were never the problem. You were just entertaining someone who was hiding in a form they never had the right to carry. And now that you see it, you can't unsee it. So walk away before they drain what's left of the light inside you.